Hello, and welcome to another Leadership Academy podcast. And I'm here tonight with Dr. Tanya Miller, who is the developer of our Leadership Academy. And we have a really interesting topic tonight. It's a topic that I personally had some trouble grasping and wanting to do as a professional. But I've leaned into it with some of the strategic planning opportunities that I've had with Dr. Miller, with my company, and personally. And I have to tell you, I'm now a true convert and believer when it comes to strategic planning. So Tanya, can you start and tell us a little bit about how leadership and strategic planning go together?
Sure. So you might be listening to this right now and say, I'm a frontline staff member or I'm a frontline supervisor in a home care agency or a home health agency. Why do I really care about strategic planning? That's what the owner or what the executives do. Well, the reason why you should care about strategic planning is actually twofold. First and foremost, if you understand the process of strategic planning and you understand all the parts that go into it, you have a lot better understanding when your boss or the owner of the organization comes to you and says, this is the where we're headed and this is why we're going to focus on this area. You know the thinking and the process that went into that. It wasn't just something they woke up with that day and said, oh, I want to go try this. There was a process that happened and you understand how that happened. The other thing that's great to understand about strategic planning and what I really build into the Leadership Academy is understanding how this process helps you develop yourself. Because strategic planning is the exact same thing as personal development planning. So if you know this process, you can apply it to figuring out your areas of strengths, your areas of challenge, the opportunities that you have to learn and grow, and then build them into strategic planning for your own self so that you can develop yourself personally and professionally. So it's got a twofold function. And I have found strategic planning process to really be rewarding and a lot of fun.
Tanya, I'm telling you, I'm so glad that you're my friend on top of being my trusted colleague, because I was probably one of your most resistant strategic planning participants that you've ever seen. So being late in my 40s, my cake was basically baked, or my cake was basically baked by the time we got together and started doing some significant strategic planning. I look at the graphic that we're using for this podcast tonight, and it says a goal without a plan is just a wish. For those of you that are just listening, a goal without a plan is just a wish. For my personality type, it was an idea without a goal and without a plan is just a wish. So how do you meld those different personalities and have them come to the table ready to plan?
Sure. So that's a great question, Sherry. And I'm thinking about some of our first strategic planning together where I hope you don't mind I share some of your fun personal stories, but I had to give a lot of breaks for Sherry because the attention span was like, oh, do we really have to go through this? I'm just stick with me. Come on, just stick with me. We'll do something fun after this. Or I promise there's sports on after this. And then you started to see the value of sticking to that plan and how that strategic plan helped to guide your business. And it also helped you with aha moments about what your business was and what you thought your business was and what it really truly was headed, what direction it was headed in. So it gave you a lot of aha moments about yourself. And I think that that's really important when you're thinking about different styles is you have to bake in some fun for the people that might not want to do it as often, do it as much because it's a lot of focus. Give time for those people that need to think about it ahead of time, giving those breaks so that they can think and come back to it and really, think about how different people process information because strategic planning, when done well, is a lot of thinking. And you have to be able to help people think through it in their different styles. Um, but it can be incredibly eye opening. It can really help you say, wow, I didn't even realize that this was what our other business was doing because you're just going around every day doing things and you're not realizing how things have evolved and changed. And that's the same way in your personal life. That's why I like to sit back personally and do a strategic plan because sometimes you go down this path of working on things in your life and you're not even realizing that your path has kind of changed and you still think you're off in another direction.
It was really an eye-opening thing for me, Tanya, and I promise everyone on this call that I am not a dingbat who just can't sit still for 2 seconds. I had just been beaten over the head with certain planning exercises that were absolutely fruitless. And as a visionary idea type person who likes to think forward in the big picture, oftentimes getting down in those weeds in a process that was not working was very difficult for me. And so I would compensate with being distracted, daydreaming, all the things that we do when we're in situations that don't fit. I think that it's important as leaders that we understand, and I know that the Leadership Academy helps you understand, and you do some personality assessments and things like that. You need to know who your people are and figure out how you're going to plan that activity. And Tanya was so good about making sure that we weren't going for more than an hour at a time without crazy dingbat Sherry needing a break. And honestly, it was really fruitful for our introvert in our group as well, because oftentimes when ideas are coming up and new topics are coming up, they need a few minutes to think and to come up with responses and really good add-ins to the process. So those frequent breaks were really helpful for everybody in the end. But unfortunately, I was like the problem child who had to have it, or else I was disruptive. And I understood that. But yeah, it's definitely something that it was hard for me to get to, but I think it's so valuable. How do you think the Leadership Academy helps with that, Tanya?
Well, the way the Leadership Academy works is I take strategic planning and I do it in our learning lunches. So I break it down over a month and we talk about each little component. And so we link it back to behavioral styles in that learning lunch. So you can kind of see how each style would go through each part of strategic planning. So by the time you get through the month, you really have a good understanding of the process. And then in the actual academy, when you're going through and learning about yourself, you have a personal workbook that you work through. And this strategic planning process helps you take that workbook and put together a development plan. So when you're finished, you know, okay, I've learned all of this about myself. I've learned this about leadership within an organization. Here's where I'm strong. Here's where I still need to keep learning. And I've set some really realistic goals and I understand actions that can help me get there. So it really does help you continue that lifelong journey of leadership, because leadership development is not taking an academy once and being done. You develop as a leader and as a professional your whole career. So this is just that first building block to help you go to the next step.
And I cannot echo enough how much our association and using you as a sage for our business, as a great colleague who's helped us do tremendous things in our business, has been so important. And how those leadership skills that you're being taught and that planning skills that you're being taught will translate into your personal life. And before or after we did our first strategic planning, and we had a few after that, in that middle, we moved out of a house for 26 years that we had lived into to make a major move in the same state, but 26 years of life. And how we set that out and how we planned it was significantly impacted by the skills that we had learned. So I don't want folks to think, well, I'm not in a leadership position, why would if you're building your personal leadership abilities, your ammunition, your acumen in leadership, it will pay dividends not just in your professional but also in your personal life. Can you talk a little bit about that, Tanya?
Sure. And I want to add one more thing too on the professional side. We have a lot of entrepreneurs that participate in the academy and in the entrepreneur academy. If you are running a business and you are not strategic planning, you are missing a huge opportunity. If you're just shooting from the hip day in and day out, managing what's in front of you, you are missing a big opportunity to sit back and really evaluate your organization and make sure you truly have a plan. So I just need to say that to the entrepreneurs out there. Don't miss the opportunity to have good strategic planning. My personal life, I use strategic planning in everything in my life. I have whiteboards. I won't say how many whiteboards I have in my office with plans and goals and everything. I've been told by my spouse that I have a goal for everything every day. So I really value strategic planning because it's how I think and it helps me move forward and keep focus on the things that are really important to me.
And like Tanya just said, with your in your business as an entrepreneur, we were working so hard but not smart. And the strategic planning has given us that focus and that vision, working towards goals that we constantly revisit, that we have in front of us, things that we've learned as our part of going through Leadership Academy with you, Tanya. And it's just really interesting how that has changed our work environment so much that our work almost seems easy now. If it doesn't serve the goal, then why are we doing it? And that's kind of where we've gotten to. And I think that that's so valuable. And I want to have a moment to ask you one last question. How often do you think that businesses fail as a result of not doing appropriate strategic planning?
I would say it's probably 75 to 80% of the reason why people fail in business because they're just going about focusing on the activities of the day and not forward thinking, and they don't have a path. Strategic planning gives you the path to walk on. And otherwise, you're just walking around in the forest, bumping in the trees.
That is such a great analogy. If you've not taken advantage of the Leadership Academy, I wanted to mention a few things about it. It's online, it's self paced, it's something that you can pick up and put down as often as you need to get to the end without losing your spot. It is such a value add to you personally and to your business. I hope that you'll take advantage of that opportunity. Tanya, thank you so much for this brief podcast on strategic planning. And I hope we've gotten everybody fired up about wanting to do it.
Thank you, Sherry. I always love chatting with you and talking about leadership and especially strategic planning.